Right then, let me ask you something. When was the last time you saw a football club spend 154 million quid on players who aren't even starting matches? Yeah, you heard that right. Newcastle United are sat there with all that money warming the bench. And trust me, what I'm about to tell you about that situation will absolutely blow your mind. But hold on a minute, because before we get to that absolute bombshell of a story, we've got two other crackers to get through first. Eddie Howe's under serious pressure, derby tickets are causing proper drama between Newcastle and Sunderland, and then, oh mate, then we're getting into the real mess that's brewing at St James's Park. Stick around till the end, because this third story is the one that's got everyone at the club absolutely rattled. Let's crack on. Story 1. Eddie Howe under the microscope. Alright, so let's talk about Eddie Howe, yeah? Now, before anyone starts having a go at me, let me be crystal clear about something. This man is genuinely brilliant at what he does. He's won Newcastle their first trophy in decades, got them into the Champions League twice, and basically turned the club from absolute relegation fodder into genuine contenders. The bloke's a legend, no two ways about it. But here's the thing, right? Even legends have rough patches, and Eddie's having one right now. Newcastle haven't won away from home in the Premier League since April. Let me say that again so it really sinks in. April. That's over 6 months without a single away victory in the league. They've just lost 3 on the bounce at Brighton, West Ham and Brentford, and now they're sat in 14th place, just 2 points above the relegation zone. Mental, innit? Now, some fans are starting to get a bit twitchy, which is fair enough when you look at those results. But the club's owners, they're completely behind him. They reckon he'll sort it out, and to be honest, they're probably right to think that way. Here's what the people in the know are saying about all this. Jonathan from True Faith magazine reckons Eddie deserves time, but he's not above criticism. The problem, according to him, is that Newcastle have lost what made them special in the first place. Remember when they used to press teams absolutely relentlessly? When their work rate was better than basically everyone else in the division? When intensity is our identity was the club's model? Yeah, all that seems to have disappeared. Jonathan thinks it might be because they're playing so many matches that Eddie has had to change the style to manage everyone's fitness. Fair point that. But he reckons Eddie needs to bring back some of that old fire and find a way to make it work even when they're playing 3 times a week. Because let's face it, if Newcastle want to be successful, that hectic schedule ain't going away. Sean from Chronicle Live makes a really important point here. He says Newcastle's away form is absolutely diabolical and needs fixing fast. But also, let's not forget what this man has achieved. He won them the League Cup just 8 months ago. He's taken them to Wembley twice, got them into the Champions League twice. His record is better than Kevin Keegan's, better than Sir Bobby Robson's. That's not me saying it, that's just fact. So yeah, the away form's terrible, but talking about sacking him, that's completely mad. Mark from Everything is Black and White has an interesting take on it. He says you can appreciate everything Eddie's done whilst also questioning some recent decisions. He thinks there's been some confused thinking during the West Ham and Brentford matches, which isn't like Eddie at all. Usually he's dead decisive, knows exactly what he's doing. Mark also wonders if Eddie might end up taking the England job next summer if it becomes available, but he's adamant that now is absolutely not the time for him to leave. Ross, another writer from Chronicle Live, goes even further. He says Eddie Howe is the greatest manager Newcastle have ever had, full stop. Reckons there should be a statue of him one day, not talk about the sack. Now he admits Eddie's made a few dodgy decisions lately and the away form needs sorting, but look at what he's achieved. St James's Park is a fortress. They're nearly through to the Champions League knockout stages. They're in another League Cup quarter-final and he ended their trophy drought. These are incredible times for Newcastle fans. Stuart, also from Chronicle Live, is even more direct. He says anyone seriously thinking Eddie should be sacked needs to take a long hard look at themselves in the mirror. The man's achievements are still current, not ancient history. He had a tough summer in the transfer market with all that Isak drama, but he handled it brilliantly and guided the club through choppy waters. Sure, he's got questions to answer after some worrying performances, but he deserves plenty of time to find those answers. The idea that his race is run at Newcastle, absolutely ridiculous. And then there's Alan Smith, the Sky Sports pundit, who puts it quite simply. If Newcastle are mid-table at Christmas, then yeah, questions need asking. But he doesn't think there will be. They've got more than enough quality to get better results and climb up the table. Obviously, they need to sort out that shocking away form, but Eddie Howe's reputation is still strong. They're in the Champions League, they've spent money, and now they need to climb the table fairly quickly. So where does that leave us? Well, it's clear that whilst there are legitimate concerns about tactics and team selection, pretty much everyone agrees that Eddie Howe has earned the right to work through this rough patch. The man's got credit in the bank, and loads of it. Newcastle fans will get behind him at the next home match against Manchester City, and the owners are certainly not wavering in their support. But make no mistake, he needs to find answers, and he needs to find them soon.
Right, moving on to our second story, and this one's about the upcoming derby against Sunderland. Now, if you don't know about the Newcastle-Sunderland rivalry, just know this, it's absolutely massive. These two clubs absolutely despise each other in the best possible way that football rivalries work. So here's the situation. Newcastle have been given 2,528 tickets for the match at Sunderland Stadium of Light. Now, you might be thinking, okay, so what? That's just how away allocations work, innit? Well, yeah, but there's a bit more to it than that. Originally, both clubs were planning to give each other 3,200 tickets. That's the standard away allocation for big matches. But then Newcastle did a safety assessment for when Sunderland come to St James's Park later in the season, and they decided they need to close the balcony seating in level 7 of the away end. Safety concerns, right? Makes sense when you've got a high-profile derby with all that intensity and emotion flying about. So that decision reduced Newcastle's away allocation for the St James's Park match from 3,200 down to 2,528. Fair enough, safety first and all that. But here's where it gets interesting. Sunderland have decided to match that reduced allocation. So now Newcastle fans are only getting 2,528 tickets for the Stadium of Light match as well. Newcastle put out a statement explaining all this, saying both clubs have agreed to match the away allocation hooks. They talked about how the safety assessment concluded that the balcony seating should be closed to support effective segregation and enhance fan safety, and Sunderland, to keep things fair, have opted to match the revised allocation. Now, if you're a Newcastle fan who's been desperate to get to this match, you can apply for tickets right now. The game's happening on Sunday, the 14th of December, with a 2 o'clock kickoff. They're doing it through a ballot system, so you apply and then they'll email you by 1 o'clock on Wednesday, the 12th of November, to let you know if you've been successful. Ticket prices are pretty reasonable actually. 30 quid for adults, 29 for over 65s, 18 for under 18s and 16 for under 14s. The club are encouraging fans to book coach travel, which costs £5 for a person, but it's not mandatory. They're not treating it as a bubble match where everyone has to travel together. This will be Newcastle's second visit to the Stadium of Light for a first-team match since 2015. Last time they went there was for an FA Cup match in 2024, and Eddie Howe's side absolutely battered them 3-0. Let's hope the travelling Newcastle fans get to see another performance like that, eh? The whole ticket situation shows you how seriously both clubs are taking security and safety for this match. When you've got rivals who haven't played each other in the Premier League since 2015-16 and you're finally getting these derbies back, tensions are going to be running high. Better to be safe than sorry, even if it means fewer fans get to experience it in person.
So let's do the maths, yeah? Ramsdale, Ramsey, Elanga and Wissa. That's £154 million worth of players who are either on the bench or not even in the squad. 154 million quid. That's not pocket change, that's an absolutely massive amount of money. And none of them are currently in Newcastle's strongest 11. Now, before everyone starts panicking and writing these players off, let's be fair about this. It's still early days in all of their Newcastle careers. Eddie Howe himself said last month that it takes time for players to get used to the Newcastle way of doing things, and that it'll be worth the wait when they finally grasp it. He's probably right about that. It's also completely true that these signings have improved Newcastle's squad depth massively. They can rotate players more now, they can compete in multiple competitions without running everyone into the ground. You've seen that benefit in the Champions League this season, where they've been brilliant. That was definitely the thinking after the transfer window closed, and it's still valid today. But here's the thing. You've got to be honest and say that Newcastle were probably hoping for a bit more from these summer recruits than what they've shown so far. Let's break it down player by player, yeah? Aaron Ramsdale has actually done pretty well when he's cleared, but he still hasn't managed to overtake Nick Pope as the #1 goalkeeper. Now, Pope's a top keeper, no question, but when you sign someone like Ramsdale, you're expecting them to push for that starting spot immediately. Jacob Ramsey has struggled to replicate the form he showed at Aston Villa. He was absolutely brilliant there, one of their best players, but he just hasn't hit those heights at Newcastle yet. Sometimes players take time to adapt to a new club, new system, new teammates, but right now he's not showing why Newcastle spent big money on him. Anthony Elanga is even more concerning. He regularly scored goals and provided assists at Nottingham Forest. That was his thing, contributing to the attack. But at Newcastle, he hasn't registered a single Premier League goal or assist yet, not one. For an attacking player, that's really worrying. And then there's Yoane Wissa, who's the unluckiest of the lot. 55 million quid spent, he completes his move, everyone's excited to see what he can do, and then boom, knee injury. He hasn't played a single second for Newcastle, not even 1 minute. That's just horrible luck for everyone involved. So, what does all this mean for Ross Wilson, Newcastle's new sporting director? Well, it makes his job crystal clear, doesn't it? He was at the Brentford match, watching all this unfold, and you can bet he was taking notes. Going forward, Newcastle's transfer strategy has to change. They've got a strong base to build on, no doubt about that, but the next players they bring in absolutely have to be guaranteed improvements on the starting 11. Not squad players, not development projects, not one for the future. Proper, immediate upgrades who walk straight into the team and make it better. Because here's the harsh reality. If Newcastle keeps spending massive amounts of money on players who don't improve the first team, it's really hard to see how they can keep progressing as a club. They've got ambitions of competing for Champions League places every season, maybe even challenging for the title eventually. But you don't achieve that by having £154 million sitting on your bench. This isn't about being harsh on the players or writing them off. Football's a funny game, and things can change quickly. Maybe Ramsey suddenly clicks and becomes undroppable. Maybe Elanga starts banging in goals left and right. Maybe Yoane Wissa comes back from injury as absolutely sensational. That could all happen. But right now, in this moment, Newcastle have a serious problem. They've spent an enormous amount of money, and they're not seeing the return on investment in the starting lineup. That's just the truth of it. And this is where it gets really interesting for Ross Wilson. He's new in the job, right? This is his first season as sporting director at Newcastle. The summer signings weren't really his doing. Those deals were mostly done before he arrived or were already in motion. But going forward, the next transfer window and beyond, that's all on him. He needs to look at what's happened with this summer's signings and learn from it. What went wrong? Why aren't these players starting? Was it poor scouting? Did they sign players who don't fit the system? Did they pay over the odds for players who weren't actually good enough? These are the questions Wilson needs to be asking himself. And then he needs to make absolutely certain that it doesn't happen again. Every single pound Newcastle spend on transfers needs to be spent wisely. They can't afford to have another 154 million quid sitting on their bench next season. The transfer market is brutal, and it's easy to get things wrong. Even the best clubs in the world sign players who don't work out. But Newcastle are trying to establish themselves as a top club, and they need their recruitment to be absolutely spot on. They need to be signing players who are ready to make an immediate impact, players who improve the team from day one. That's Ross Wilson's biggest challenge, and frankly, it might define his entire tenure at the club. If he can get the recruitment right, if he can bring in players who genuinely strengthen that starting 11, then Newcastle can keep climbing and competing with the best. But if he gets it wrong, if they keep spending massive amounts of money on players who don't make the team better, then they're going to stagnate. So there you have it, folks. 3 massive stories from Newcastle United, each one bigger than the last.
Eddie Howe is navigating his first real crisis at the club, dealing with terrible away form, but still backed by the owners and most of the fans. The derby against Sunderland is causing ticket drama with reduced allocations because of safety concerns. And the absolute kicker, the one that should have everyone at the club thinking long and hard, £154 million worth of players who aren't starting matches. That last one, that's the story that could define Newcastle's entire season and potentially their future. Ross Wilson's got a massive job on his hands, sorting out the recruitment, making sure every signing counts, and ensuring they don't waste another penny on players who aren't good enough to improve the starting 11. What do you reckon about all this? Are you worried about Eddie Howe's position, or do you trust them to turn it around? Do you think the summer signings will come good eventually? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, smash that like button if you found this useful, and don't forget to subscribe, because we're bringing you the latest Newcastle news every single day. Right, I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.